Hey, big fucking dreamers. So pumped to be here with you today on the Big Fucking Dreams podcast. And today we're going to be talking about something that I've been speaking about to a few of my clients. This doesn't generally come up in the life and work transformation. It is going to be coming up in level 2 and level 3, which, by the way, level 2 starts next week. I am so excited for it. So level 2 is all around professional actualization. It's all around communication. It's a deeper dive in looking at your parts in internal family systems therapy, especially polarized parts, which is when one side of you really wants to do something. One side of you has a lot of ambition, but then another side of you is like a sloth monster that wants to live on the couch and just wants to watch reruns of Downton Abbey. And so these parts of you are almost that tug of war. So we're going to be going into that in the first week. But anyways, I digress. But it's been a few weeks since I've recorded and I have done so much. So I have been doing a lot of public speaking. I did an event at LinkedIn last week. I've got another event at MongoDB and Smartsheet next week for International Women's Day. This episode will be out after that. But when I did my dream life design, and this is something that we always start out with in the life and work transformation, and when I looked at what does my ideal day look like, and what does my ideal life look like, and my ideal career look like, public speaking was always on the list. And doing public speaking, speaking in front of crowds, it's on my 10-year bucket list. Chris and I made 10-year bucket lists the other day, and it's on my 10-year bucket list to speak in front of a crowd of 10,000 people or more, to have people highly engaged. And I really started focusing on that at the beginning of the year, saying I want more speaking engagements. And it's been just really amazing to see that come to fruition. And I wouldn't say effortlessly, but a bit effortlessly. Like I put things out there and then they just started coming in the process. Like I put the process in place and then I executed on the process. And I think it started coming because it also felt like this is actually what I'm meant to be doing. I don't have to push so hard at these things. And I feel like it is really aligned with my values, aligned with where I want to go. So that's just a bit of a personal update of things that are happening in my life that I'm really excited about. And the thing about that is I put the intention out there and I said, this is what I want to do. This is why I want to do it. And at the beginning of the year, one of my mentors and I, she's more of a financial mentor, but we sat down and it was on New Year's Day and we did a whole plan for the year, almost like a business plan. And she just said, like, what does your intuition say that is the next right thing to be doing? And immediately it was like public speaking. And her and I didn't really like that wasn't something that we'd spoken about. And she was like, okay, great, do it. And I've executed on that. I'm continuing to execute on that. I love it. I love speaking in groups. I've been doing either like keynote or I did a team event last week with Katie Clinch's team at LinkedIn, a customer success team, all around ownership mindset. That was so much fun. I absolutely loved it. When you start doing things from a place of this is what my intuition is saying, this is what one of my highest values is saying, like I love being around people and I have found in my coaching practice, I miss that a lot. Like I work alone, I work remotely, and being around people, working with people, interacting with people is something that I miss all the time. So it was actively putting out that intention and then following through. So today's topic is all around office politics. Now, this is something that it usually comes up more in my one-on-one client relationships versus my group coaching relationships. My group coaching in the life and work transformation, it's really about level 1 is definitely about you setting your intentions, understanding what your triggers are, designing your ideal life, overcoming burnout, getting career clarity. Level 2 is actually a bit more about execution, and level 3 is going to be about leadership, which is like self leadership, also leadership of others, how you influence. And it's more around like the actualization of what your dream life design was. This is something where clients come to me when either a big event has happened, like let's say a client gets fired either before they work with me or during the time, or they could be trying really hard at work, like doing really well at work with their, like, let's say you're a salesperson that performs really well, but you're just not getting promoted and you can't get to like seem to get any of the jobs that you want to get. And usually what I see is that clients that struggle with quote unquote office politics, they usually have a very high justice part of them. So they have a part that really strives after, well, this is what's right. This is what's right with me. They can often have very like martyr tendencies as well. I have seen that. And usually they're highly intelligent. So if you've got a combination of really strong justice parts, strong like parts of you that also feel like you need to be the martyr, you need to self-sacrifice in order to please everyone else, or in order to self-sacrifice in order to do what's right, then often this is a combination for not really knowing how to navigate the workplace, even if you do your job really well. I'm actually going to give you 3 direct steps to take on how to improve office politics and how to get better at it and how to succeed in your career. Okay, so I really realized early on that so much of career success is really about 2 things. It's about, well, I guess it's 3 things. It's about interpersonal relationships, it's about perception, which also hinders on interpersonal relationships, and then the third thing is how good you are at your actual job. Now, it's kind of shocking, and I feel like it's one of the biggest shams and or like scams. I'm not what is I'm like thinking sham. I'm like, is sham a word? It's one of the biggest or the oddest things that in a corporate environment, how you perform at your job day to day actually doesn't have very little to do with your ability to get promoted, with your ability to take on larger scope of work. I would say it has let's say 40 to 50%, but actually what matters is not as equally, if not more, is your interpersonal relationships. What I really want to do is actually just offer what is so when we talk about office politics, I actually want to say what is office politics. So I got this from Harvard Business Review, and office politics is HBR, an article says politics broadly defined as being able to be successful to navigate the unwritten rules of how to get things done and through whom. And this includes understanding the motivations of others at work and using this knowledge to influence in ways that enhance one's personal interests and organizational objectives. So, broadly speaking, office politics is looking at your scope of influence. So it's understanding how to navigate interpersonal relationships and looking at your scope of influence to get what you need to get done as well as what the organization needs to get done. So a lot of times, especially I find with females, they will think that this is kind of dirty. They're like, I don't want to play games. I don't want to navigate the system. But it is important to realize that your success, your promotions, usually your pay, they are not determined by you. They are determined by people in a room that you are not in. So if you want to get ahead in your career and you want to exist within that system, you have to understand how to navigate these relationships. Another option is not existing within the system. I decided I didn't want to exist in the system in corporate, although I still do work with a lot of corporate. So it still is crucial for me to understand how to influence, especially since I'm doing a lot more B2B work. But if you don't want to exist in the system, which is a pretty huge system, then an alternative is to leave the system and go into entrepreneurship, build your own culture. But a lot of people don't necessarily want to do that, or they don't have the financial means to do that yet. They've got a mortgage, they've got children, they're not in a position. So if you are existing in this system, then understanding how to actually navigate it. Thing is, this is something that goes unseen, and a lot of people don't talk about it. They will talk about hard skills development, like how to do your job. So if you're in sales, it will be how to close a deal, how to negotiate, how to forecast, how to do pipeline generation, etc. Or if you are in, let's say, investor relations, or you're in finance, it could be how to write a board paper or how to execute on a certain strategy. But office politics is really how to navigate interpersonal relationships. And that is something that is not taught. But what I do want to also say is this is a skill. It can be learned like any other skill. So if you find yourself thinking and feeling very defeated around this and thinking, okay, I'm really shit at this, I don't know how to do this. I've never been good at it. Just understanding that it is like learning a new language. And you don't go to your first Mandarin lesson and think, I'm going to be amazing at Mandarin. No, you're going to realize, okay, wow, this is a whole new set of characters. This is actually a whole new way of structuring sentences. It's an unspoken language, and I'm going to give you 3 tactical tools in order to realize how to navigate better. First is understanding who is on your rapid. So rapid, it's an acronym. This is something that is used by Bain, a consulting firm. The R is recommend, the A is agree, the P is perform, the I is input, and the D is decide. You can look at a rapid for every decision-making process in an organization, and there will be different people who execute each of those roles. You want to actually map out your rapid in terms of who decides your career. It's your promotion, you're going to get a pay increase up for a leadership position. If you are, a first line manager, this could be if you are a CEO because you would be reporting to the board, but there will likely be, if you're a VC backed company, this could be your investors as well, but there will likely be someone or something unless you're in a privately owned business where you have full control and you don't have a board and you don't have VC, but likely people listening to this like do work in corporate, so it's not for them. So what you want to see is who is on your rapid. So I'm going to give you an example. You're a first line manager at a tech company and you're thinking, okay, who's on my rapid? Or you're an enterprise salesperson. So who is going to recommend that you say that you be promoted? And let's just look at a decision like being promoted or going pay increase. So who's going to recommend that? Likely that is going to be your boss. So that's going to be like a senior manager or a director. Who is going to agree before that decision makes? So now we're in the A, agree. So that will likely be your director. That could be the peer stakeholders as well to your direct leader. So it could be, let's say, if you're an enterprise sales rep, that could be your manager, but then it might have to be your manager's boss as well as their peers, because there could only be a certain level of promotions, internal calibration happening. So you want to make sure that everyone's on the same level. You look at P, so who actually executes that decision. That usually is people on the back end of it who are taking care, like in an internal organization, especially a large organization. An executor could be, someone in ops, someone in processing, someone in payroll. And then I, so input. So who provides input to shape this decision? So that could mean your stakeholders. That could mean your stakeholders manager. Or like if you're in enterprise sales, let's say your stakeholders would be customer success. They could be, depending on the size of your organization, you could have like a sales development representative that works for you and prospects into your accounts. Your manager may go to the manager of your stakeholders. So everyone that you interact with is going to have input and is going to influence the decision. And then the D is who is the final decision maker. So this is usually your manager or their boss. If you are a CEO, this is likely going to be the chairman and the board. So if you're thinking about who is the final decision maker for whatever it is you're doing, so you actually want to go and map with each of these things. Okay, who recommends, who agrees, who performs, who puts input, and who decides. What I would do is actually map all of these things and then make a chart. I would write, what is your relationship with them, with each of these stakeholders? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it neutral? And then what are the action steps to improve this decision, to improve your relationship with them? So let's say you actually have a bad relationship with one of your stakeholders and you're looking at, okay, my relationship is bad with them and kind of what's behind that. I had a conversation with a client the other day and she had a poor relationship with her customer success manager. And she made a statement that was like, basically she was kind of like, they're not that competent, they're not that valuable. And I was like, wait a second. Whoa, hold on. I have worked with extremely talented customer success managers that have highly driven my sales numbers. They've increased my renewal rates, reduced churn, but also they're huge pipeline generation for me. So if you have a belief system that either this person that you work with is incompetent or this person that you work with is dumb or this function is dumb or you actually don't need it, that belief system is really going to hinder you in terms of having a positive relationship with them. So you need to understand, is there a belief system underneath it? If there is, which is potentially about that person or even about that person's function, you have to resolve that internally because you're not going to be able to have a good relationship with them if you believe that they are incompetent or that this organization is somehow hindering. Once you've identified all of these, where to invest my relationships with them? And a lot of times, what this will mean, and especially it's thinking about how do you influence them positively? So if you have a stakeholder that you, let's say, don't necessarily get along with or you don't think is that competent, it's understanding, and we're going to get this into step 2, that relationships are essential. So in step 2, so it's understanding that relationships are essential. What I have seen as well is people thinking people really struggling with incompetence, which I understand because I struggle with incompetence. But if there is a person in your organization who is someone that has influence over your career, they have to be good at something. And it's understanding that what do you want to utilize them for, and really trying to find what they are good at, but also trying to find out what do they care about? What is it that they're interested in? And here the thing really is compromise. So what I have seen really hold people back is them saying, you know what, this is the right way to do something in an organization. I know this is the right way. This is what's right for the team, and just kind of totally overriding one of their stakeholders and having no compromise or no wiggle room, because they basically hold, productivity and efficiency and like honestly working really well in higher regard than building a positive relationship, when actually it's really realizing that it is equal, potentially compromising on some of the things. So if your stakeholder really wants you to do something but you think it's kind of you think it's the wrong move, or you think it's something that is dumb, or you think it's not going to further the organization, it's really looking at, are they on your rapid, how much influence that they have, and looking at relational development as a key part of your role, not just getting things done. So if this person, let's say this person is a peer stakeholder, they are strong on your rapid, they have direct influence over your career, they do influence your career in some sort of capacity. So understanding what it is that you can compromise with them, how can you meet them halfway, how can you make their life easier? And that's a huge thing on the rapid. Is anyone who is an I for you, like who has a lot of input or influence over these decisions and is the decision maker, so the D on your rapid, you want to think, what do they care about, and how can I make their life easier, and how can we get on the same page? These are people that you want to build the strongest relationships with in the organization, because they highly, highly influence where you go within the company and the outcomes of your career. They influence how much money you make, which then influences your super, when you can retire, what schools your children can go to, how much vacation you take. All of this is a huge trickle on effect. And people that don't understand this, and they just see it as short-sighted of like, well, this is the best way to do my job, they often don't see the bigger picture and how much influences can actually have over their life, especially when it goes wrong. So looking at, okay, who are these things? Who are the people on the I? Who are the people on the D? How can I make my relationship better with them? How can I make it stronger? What is it that they care about? And how can I help them with whatever they care about? So figuring out those things. Then it's step 3, which is really effort versus impact. And I want you to think about, okay, how can I make the least amount of effort but the most amount of impact? So if you think about an XY axis, right? And I want you to think about um impact on impact on one side, and then I want you to think about effort on one side and visibility on another side. And what you are trying to get is low effort but high visibility. So what are the things that are going to get you high visibility, especially with people that influence your rapid? So there was one time where there was a new product that we were selling at LinkedIn, and there was a pitch off. I didn't really want to do the pitch off, but I really understood, okay, this is going to be like, it was still a bit of an effort. Like it definitely, I had to prepare the presentation, great storytelling, figure out how to pitch this product. But I knew that every single person in my division was going to be there at the pitch off, including my boss's boss, all of my boss's peers and stakeholders. So this is something that I wanted to be visible for. So I think I was there with 5 people. I won the pitch off. And a few months later, a manager asked me to interview. And when I said, and it was a manager of a different team, it was actually a manager of a different division. And I just said, why did you consider me? And she said, I saw the way that you conducted yourself at that pitch off. I love the stories you told. I love how you approach it. And that was when you really stood out to me. So if we're thinking about what happened there, it was that I did something, let's say 3 to 4 hours worth of effort, conducting the pitch, doing the pitch off, whatever it was. But it was very high visibility. So where you spend your time really matters. If you're doing something, let's say like any type of extra project work, and that takes a really long time, like that takes 3 to 4 hours, let's say a week or a quarter, whatever it who is the project work being seen by? If you're like, spending hours and hours on an internal newsletter that only your team is being seen, and like it's just your manager, it's none of your manager's peers, like that's a poor use of your time. versus are you spending your time in areas where, because you're going to be spending the time somewhere. And if you are spending the time in the right areas and those areas which are highly visible, especially to people on the rapid, especially to your peers, your stakeholders, managers, your stakeholders, directors, that is where you are going to want to spend the most time. So that is where it's going to be the most fruitful for you. Maybe this could seem like some people are like, this is dirty, this is manipulative, but it's really getting that the people who master this are the people that are getting promoted, are the people that are getting like more visible, and they are likely just as talented as you. So why not put your talent in the right direction and understand that, and like really reframe that as like, this isn't necessarily me getting ahead. This is actually me looking after myself. This is me getting the biggest shot possible. This is me having to work less, but make my work more potent so that I can spend my time, doing all the things that I love. And if you're like, this actually doesn't feel good to me and this feels manipulative, like then I want you to really reframe like office politics is just relationship building. That's all it is. It's relationship building. It's putting your energy and effort in the right place. It's understanding how to navigate difficult relationships. And that is such a skill in itself. Having a positive working relationship with someone that you dislike or someone that you think is incompetent is a skill, and it is a skill that can be developed, and that you could say, wow, I can really work with anyone. Wow, I can take a bad situation and I can still make an impact, because hopefully you are aligned to your organization's values and you do believe in what it's selling. So you want to be able to impact the most people possible. And the way that you can do that is really increasing your scope of influence. And the way that you can do that is getting promoted, getting pay increases, getting like having higher impact in the people that you influence. So all of this is like very tied into what do you want your career to look like, how far it is that you want to go into your career. I hope that this really helps today. It's a little bit, it's not necessarily the usual type of content that I produce, but I've been having a lot of conversations with clients, and I think that this will be helpful, especially who people are struggling. Send me a DM if you liked this. I love hearing from you guys. I've been hearing from some of you guys more on Instagram and on LinkedIn, but if this was helpful, I want to hear from you. Send me a DM. I love hearing from the big fucking dreamers, and I will see you next time.